Good afternoon, members. It is the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order this meeting. Agenda item 1, information papers issued since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, the Secretariat issued one information paper, that is the Annual Report 2023 to the Chief Executive by the Commissioner on Interception of Communications and Surveillance. As a usual practice, I asked members if members have any questions about this report, as at 5 p.m. on the 25th of October this year, the Secretariat has not received any comments from members on this paper. So this panel will not follow up on the report. Agenda item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next regular meeting will be held at 2:30 p.m. on the 3rd of December. It is a Tuesday. Given the latest proposals of the Security Bureau, there will be some adjustment to the items to be discussed. Item A, work of the Immigration Department in assisting Hong Kong residents in distress outside Hong Kong. This is the first item on the list of outstanding items for discussion. Item B, proposal on making permanent of one time-limited supernumerary post of Deputy Chief Fire Officer in the Fire Services Department. That is the second item on the list of outstanding items for discussion. Item C, proposal on extending the duration of a supernumerary post of Assistant Director of Immigration. That is the third item on the list. Under this item, there will be a discussion on the latest progress of the administration in processing non-refoulement claims. And this item is item 4 on the list of outstanding items for discussion. If we agree on this, then I will remove the item 4 from the list because this will be discussed in the next meeting. Another reminder is that there will be a visit to the Immigration Department headquarters on the 2nd of December. Details of the visit have been sent to members. If you wish to attend the visit, please sign up before 5 p.m. on the 25th of November. Members who wish to speak on the third agenda item today, please press the button. The third agenda item is briefing by the Secretary for Security on the Chief Executive's 2024 policy address. Let us invite the Secretary and his team to join us. Members, please note that the administration will consult the panel under this item on a legislative proposal to list etomidate, the principal ingredient of space oil, as a dangerous drug. That is part 1 of the first schedule to the Dangerous Drugs Ordinance, Cap 134. We have quite a strong consensus on this already at the community level. If you have any questions about this, please ask these questions to the administration. For this particular item, we have Mr. Chris Tang, Secretary for Security, Mr. Michael Chuk, Undersecretary for Security, and Mr. Ki-Sen Lee, Commissioner for Narcotics, will also be attending this item. Secretary, please walk us through the paper. First of all, I'd like to thank the panel for the valuable views it has been providing on the different policy areas of the Security Bureau. In this year's policy address, the Security Bureau has 4 major policy areas, and I'll briefly introduce to members about these areas. The first theme is safeguarding our country and home. Security and development work together like the two wings of a bird. Security is the foundation of development and stability is the prerequisite for prosperity. In the first half of 2025, we will issue a set of guidelines to specify how public officers should fully abide by the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance requirements in discharging their duties. Also, we'll strengthen education, publicity, and promotion on national security. This includes launching in 2025 thematic exhibitions at the National Security Exhibition Gallery, bringing an online national security-themed animation series to schools and preparing printed picture books. Together with the DOJ and the Radio Television Hong Kong, we'll produce a new series of information programs on national security laws. We'll expand the scale of the territory-wide inter-school national security knowledge challenge to strengthen young people's understanding and awareness of national security. The second theme is fighting crimes and responding to emergencies. We've earlier proposed to amend the Fire Safety Buildings Ordinance. The amendment bill is currently under the scrutiny of the relevant bills committee, and the legislative work is expected to be completed within this year. On emergency rescue, we're taking forward the GBA Emergency Response and Rescue Operational Plan. The governments of Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau will set up a task force, and the first meeting will be held within 2025. A working group will also be set up for establishing a cross-boundary green channel for resource sharing. On fighting crimes, we'll take forward the installation of CCTV at Crime Black Spots program. We aim to install 2,000 sets of CCTVs for the first phase in 2025. Subject to review thereafter, we target to install 2,000 to 2,500 sets of CCTVs each year to strengthen protection of public order and public safety. On enacting legislation to protect computer systems of critical infrastructures, further to the information paper issued to this panel in October to set out the way forward for implementing the legislative work, we will introduce a bill before the end of this year, stipulating the legal obligations of critical infrastructure operators to protect their computer systems. We will also introduce a bill into the Legislative Council within next year to amend the Firearms and Ammunition Ordinance to strengthen the control over the manufacture of firearms and ammunition as well as the marking of firearms, with a view to strengthening control on the manufacture of firearms and ammunition and gun markings. This is to prevent organized crimes and terrorist activities and implement the Firearms Protocol. To further guard against the risks of terrorist attacks, we'll introduce by the end of this year a 3-tier prevention framework by setting up the Chief Executive Counter-Terrorism Steering Group, the Secretary for Security Counter-Terrorism Coordinating Group, and 7 interdepartmental working groups. On the Sexual Conviction Record Check Scheme, we propose to expand the scope of the scheme to cover prospective self-employed persons by December 2024 for the first phase. Since September 2024, we have been making use of the Advanced Passenger Information System in phases to enhance prevention of potential abusers of the non-refoulement claim mechanism from boarding flights heading to Hong Kong. On combating drugs, we will list etomidate, the principal ingredient of space oil, as a dangerous drug. Taking the opportunity of the 60th anniversary of the Action Committee Against Narcotics in the year ahead, we will organize a series of community engagement activities as well as the GBA Anti-Drug Summit. The third theme is bringing convenience and facilitation to the public and businesses. Following the introduction of mainland travel permits for Hong Kong and Macau residents, non-Chinese citizens, we have, with effect from the day when the policy address was announced, provided facilitation to foreign staff of companies registered in Hong Kong by extending the validity period of their multiple entry visas to the mainland to a maximum of 5 years. The applications will enjoy priority processing. We've also relaxed the criteria for nationals of Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar applying for multiple entry visas for travel and business. The validity period of the visas has been extended to 3 years. The arrangement also applies to Vietnamese. We will expedite the processing of visa applications from group visitors of these ASEAN countries submitted via local travel agents. In addition, we will provide self-service immigration clearance for invited persons participating in business, development, and related activities from the 10 ASEAN countries and provide one-stop handling of their applications for self-service immigration clearance and visa through a dedicated desk. We aim to announce the details in the first half of next year. We have also cancelled the requirement for visitors to furnish an arrival or departure card. On fire safety, we will, by the first quarter of next year, set up a one-stop coordination office for new fire protection facilities acceptance to provide one-stop coordination and support services in respect of the acceptance inspection of fire protection facilities of new residential buildings. By the third quarter of 2025, we will, in each of the 2 districts with relatively more old buildings, that is Wanchai and Yunlong, establish a new support center to further support owners and occupiers of old buildings in respect of fire safety improvement works. Also, by Q3 next year, we will set up an FSD Building Improvement Special Duty Team to proactively carry out inspections and strengthen law enforcement actions against fire hazards, and to enhance fire safety education in old composite and domestic buildings. We have also relaxed the height restriction of residential care homes for the elderly to allow parts of the care homes used for dormitory purpose to be situated at a height more than 24 meters above the ground floor, on the condition that specific fire safety requirements have been met and appropriate management measures have been adopted. The last theme is telling good stories of Hong Kong. By the end of this year, we'll increase the daily quota for visits going to Shuttlecock to 3,000 on weekends and holidays. By the end of this year, we will adopt facial recognition technology on a pilot basis for identity verification, allowing people holding valid closed area permits to enter and leave Chongying Street unimpededly via a contactless mode. As for the Shuttlecock Control Point project, we will adopt a cross-river construction approach in the redevelopment. The redeveloped control point will only retain its passenger clearance function and implement the collaborative inspection and joint clearance mode to facilitate passenger clearance. The relevant engineering feasibility study is expected to be completed within next year. We will continue to make use of technology to facilitate law enforcement, management, and public service delivery. We will extend the suspicious account alert to ATM transactions to provide comprehensive coverage for transfer transactions. We will roll out the approved hand-in articles e-ordering service by the end of this year to enable relatives and friends of persons in custody to purchase approved hand-in articles via online platforms. Also, we'll continue to implement the Smart Customs Blueprint to speed up customs clearance and combat customs-related offenses in a targeted approach through the application of AI. We will upgrade the Ethics College to offer associate degree programs to help eligible PICs obtain recognized qualifications of a higher level and facilitate their reintegration into society. On youth development, we aim to, by the end of this year, increase the number of active members of our youth uniformed groups by 5%. We will further expand the collaboration network of the Security Bureau Youth Uniformed Group Leaders Forum to include Macau in addition to Shenzhen. We will host a number of international conferences. While the Customs and Excise Department is serving as the World Customs Organization Vice Chairperson for the Asia-Pacific region between 2024 and 2026, we'll organize different international conferences. In November 2024, we'll host the 42nd Asian and Pacific Conference of Correctional Administrators. In 2025, we'll organize the first GBA Correctional Tactical Skills Competition. We'll also assist our country in bidding for the hosting of the 94th Interpol General Assembly in Hong Kong in 2026. The above is a brief introduction of the various initiatives. I hope that I can continue to get the support of members of this panel to achieve the objective of the CE's policy address, that is to reform for enhancing development and building our future together. We have drawn up KPIs for each initiative. They are set out in the annex. I'm happy to take questions from members with my team. Thank you, Secretary. Including myself, there are 13 members who have requested to speak. They are Ms. Elizabeth Kwok, Dr. Johnny Mr. Chen Pui Leung, Dr. Chow Man Kong, Mr. Ambrose Lam, Mr. Dominic Lee, Mr. Perry Yu, Ms. Carmen Khan, Mr. Edmund Wong, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, Ms. Maggie Chen, Mr. Benson Look, and myself. 4 minutes for each member. Ms. Elizabeth Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. I support the idea of listing atomidate, that is the principal ingredient of space oil, as a dangerous drug. According to many news reports, we know that this is harmful to young people. I want to know the timeline for this. Also, between now and the completion of the legislative exercise, what measures is the government going to adopt to protect young people from atomidate? Another question is about Crime fighting. I understand the administration will install CCTV cameras at black spots. I support this proposal because the administration is doing this to ensure security. I recently visited the mainland and I have learned that in the mainland they no longer use CCTV cameras. Instead, they make use of drones. 7 government departments shared their experience of using the drone surveillance system, and this includes the Emergency Response Department as well as the Security Department in the mainland. These unmanned systems as well as drones are or have been deployed in regular patrols by the government. I think by making use of these systems, we won't duplicate resources, and these resources can be shared among different departments, and this can ensure flexibility because these drones and systems can be deployed at different locations. Instead of installing CCTVs at fixed spots, will the government consider making use of new drone surveillance systems, which can be shared among different government departments? Will you consider using AI to step up patrol to combat crimes?
And also, I am also very cognizant about the abuse of permit application, but because we will be discussing this in the next meeting, I will not follow up in this particular meeting. But I just want to say that recently there had been a police officer who had been stabbed 5 times on the streets, and the perpetrator was one holding on a temporary permit for stay in Hong Kong that had attracted a lot of public outcry. This kind of people are armed and on the streets, and they may be committing crimes such as robbery. So for this kind of abuse of the permits, in fact, this kind of people might actually cause threats to the Hong Kong people. So definitely for these false claims for refoulement and applying for permit for this kind of cases, there should be more attention to them. Now, for the first half of the year, the legislation for the so-called space oil would be completed, and there is abuse of such narcotics space oil, and we hope to be able to conclude the relevant legislative efforts as soon as possible, definitely in the first half of the next year. It is now a form of narcotics, but it is a controlled substance nevertheless at the present time. We have already arrested persons who had been manufacturing the so-called space oil. This kind of space oil is actually inhaled through the e-cigarettes. So we will continue to combat that. And also on the drones that you have talked about, this is about low altitude controls. Yes, this is a trend, and we will be looking into the usage of drones for combating crimes. Right now, we are still deploying CCTVs, and as mentioned, we'll be sharing with other departments concerned, and this will be within our legislation and regulations for sharing of resources. Next, Johnny Ng. Right. For the protection of national security under one country, two systems, and the combat of relevant perpetrators and crimes, it had been very successful. And there will be a guideline published concerning public officers in terms of their duties in national security. And I believe this is important for them to understand their responsibilities for upholding national security. So my question is, what are the areas of the guidelines? And if there are still public officers who do not abide by the guideline, how would that affect the relevant public officers concerned in terms of promotions and other deployments? And also concerning the convention concerning armed weapons and arms weapons and also bullets, there will be a revision and review of the relevant laws, because technology is now very advanced and 3D printing is very strong, and there is a possibility that there are such possibilities, and that is through 3D printing, there can be a printing of these illegal equipment or weapons. So, and this is also available on the internet as well, and in terms of so-called educational video. And also, ChatGPT is also very prevalent. Deepfake is also very prevalent, and there have been criminal elements who have been using these university students to work together with international criminal groups to create deepfake content. So what are your ways of combating this? Right. In terms of the guidelines for public officers to uphold national security, it is clearly said that any responsibilities that is for, to be carried out by the public officers, they need to, at the same time, uphold national security. But we do notice that some of the public officers do not know how exactly to go about it. So we are using very simple language to spell out the 20 areas of security for the nation, and also there are guidelines on their specific works as well. And also, the mindset of our colleagues need to be shaped so that national security is in the minds of the public officers, and so in their everyday work they can continue to uphold national security. In the guidelines, there are no terms concerning punishment. That is not part of the intention of the guidelines. But on the other hand, if there are public officers who knowingly undermine national security, then according to the code for governing public officers' behavior and conduct, they will be punished and handled. Now, as for weapons, including guns and the manufacture of such and the import of such, there will have to be certain labels so that we can trace them. But basically in Hong Kong, it is illegal to manufacture weapons or guns, whether this is assembly through purchase of parts or 3D printing of guns. This is illegal. Through intelligence, we will continue to combat and control such misbehavior. And on deepfake, we understand that there are certain cases which involve deepfake. There are 4 such cases, and one such case was a case involving $200 million, which was swindled by deepfaking the person's senior officer. And also there were certain attractive personalities used to effect these swindling results. And so, yes, indeed, through publicity and also through education, especially for messages asking for information about bank accounts and payment of money. Now, because we have a list of members who want to ask questions, please control the time. Champulong next. Right. Concerning the CCTV installation at black spots for crime, I believe that there had been, it had been very effective. And lately, there had been a couple of major crimes which had been successfully handled because of these CCTV. So in the future, it is mentioned here that there will be further installation of these CCTVs. Now, if in Hong Kong we are to cover the territory, across the territory with CCTVs, how many units are we talking about, and how long will it take for the installation of these CCTVs, please? And another point, there is a suggestion saying that the Transport and Logistics Department will request for the installation of video taking at the in the vehicles, and this will be handled through cloud platforms. The question is, can perhaps the administration discuss with the relevant department concerning the public vehicles such as taxis, which are running on the streets of Hong Kong, over 10,000 of them, so that these vehicles can also help with the investigations of relevant crimes, etc. And another is with regards to the college, the new college, which is set up by the new college. This college, we are very happy to see that there are graduating classes from the Lutheran College as well. And it says here that there is to be associate degrees courses offered by the Lutheran College. And I would like to know whether it is possible for the inmates to, after they have left the prison, they can continue with the relevant courses that they had started while they were still in prison, so that they can get recognition and qualifications. And for this kind of courses, if they reach a certain achievement, perhaps this can be considered in their prison terms, so that it can perhaps be an encouragement for more inmates to enroll in these associate degree courses. For CCTV, after 2025, we project that there will be 2,000 to 2,500 sets or units per year installation. But if you're talking about territory-wide coverage, for UK, it is 7 million plus. Singapore is 9 million plus units. By 2030, they would want to install a total of 200,000 units. So, of course, we have to look at the actual situation on the ground here. For some public areas, MTR, for instance, there are CCTV installed. So we have to decide on how many units and on where we want to install these units. We have to look at these public areas as well. As for car cameras on taxis, for example, where there are crimes, we are reaching out to cabbies and taxi drivers to help to solve these crimes through accessing their video. And these will be processed on the cloud platform. And in the future, we will also do that to collect the images of videos from these car cameras. Now, as for the associate degree, there will be a certificate of applied education. Apart from this particular college, if the inmate already had the qualifications before going into prison, we would consider that as well. I understand that not everybody can graduate within 2 years, but there are certain agreements reached with relevant colleges, and that is while in prison, if the inmates were able to have certain credits, achieve certain credits, then after the release from prison, they are continue with the relevant courses. These credits will not go wasted. Right. Chairman Kong? Right, on the Kai Tak Sports Park, everybody is very expectant on it. And my question is for the administration, before the official opening of the Kai Tak Sports Park, will there be another round of anti-terrorism exercise? For major exercises, the coordination, and also how everyone is to respond to the relevant situation that may happen. All these are important. So will there be another round of exercise? And also we see that by September, for illegal entrance into Hong Kong and also for non-Chinese descent persons, there had been a decrease of illegal immigrants to the tune of 40% and 30% respectively, lower than before. And there are 7 airlines which are participating in this system. Now, we had 110 at least airlines which are operating these routes. I do not know when the legislation will be that there will be relevant requirement for all the airlines. And another point is that there are over 10,000 active members for the uniformed youth groups. And I understand that this will be on the increase, and under the with the Security Bureau, there are 6 uniformed forces, disciplinary and otherwise, disciplinary forces. I heard that they may be running out of funding, but on the other hand, will there be sufficient funding provided to them so that they can go into the colleges and universities so that they can promote positivity, and also to put down roots for this kind of activities involving the youth.
Secretary, there will be 20 drills before the Kai Tai Sports Park is commissioned. For example, 2 weeks ago there was a trial match, and there will also be drills involving some 50,000 spectators at a later stage. So anti-terrorism drills will definitely be one of the drills that we're going to conduct. To prevent stampede. These drills are to ensure that our officers will be able to respond to any emergencies that arise. The other question is about the Advanced Passenger Information System. Starting from September this year, well, around September and October, around 5 airlines were added to the system. As at the end of October this year, another 52% of the airlines, that is over half of the airlines, have connected to the system. By Q2 next year, all the airlines will be covered under the system. Your third question concerns youth uniformed groups. Our Bureau so far has enough resource to support the organization of different activities. Some of our youth uniformed groups, they go to universities or tertiary institutions to set up teams or branches. University students are backbone members of these youth uniformed groups. Be they university students, primary or secondary students, or even kindergarten students, we try to reach out to different students and young people. Mr. Ambrose Lam, there's a part in the paper that is dedicated to non-refoulement claims. I applaud the Bureau's work on this. I think there's room for improvement. According to the paper, between January and September this year, 190 non-refoulement claimants were removed, and so about 2,000 people are removed per year. However, according to the government's reply in 2023, as at October 2023, about 14,700 claimants came to Hong Kong. Based on this figure, it will take 6.5 years to remove and expatriate all these claimants, excluding the claimants that continue to come to Hong Kong. If they stay in Hong Kong, in the long run, it may affect the safety of our people. One police officer was attacked by a South Asian man recently, I want to know if the government is going to adopt any measures to speed up the processing of these non-refoulement claims. Also, there are many claimants applying for judicial review, and now that the judiciary has hired more people, I want to know if you have talked to the Department of Justice to handle the backlog of claims. Secretary, on problems caused by non-refoulement claims, we are well aware of them. We have done a lot of work to improve the situation. First of all, as mentioned, when non-refoulement claimants come, we have a panel and we ask the Immigration Department to vet and approve the applications. We have talked to the judiciary and we have added more manpower to do this. So the processing time has been shortened by half. So we're seeing a progress here. The second point is about appeals. Normally, claimants will have to wait until the Court of First Instance to give a ruling and complete all the other procedures before they can be removed. Now we have the consent of the judiciary. Basically, if the Court of First Instance make a ruling to reject the claims, then we can remove the claimant concerned. Thirdly, we understand that some non-refoulement claimants are causing security issues in Hong Kong, so we are increasing the quota in our detainment facilities to detain these non-refoulement claimants to minimize the risks caused by these claimants. Through the above measures, we want to be able to speed up the process of expatriating these unsubstantiated claimants. In terms of verifying the identity of claimants, we want to have more resources to speed up the process so that we can remove these unsubstantiated claimants as soon as possible. Mr. Dominic Lee, we have to combat drugs so that they don't affect our future generations, especially space oil. They affect the health of our young people. Therefore, the Security Bureau is proposing to list etomidate as a dangerous drug. Our party is all for this proposal, and we thank the Security Bureau for its effort. I want to learn about the latest trend of space oil. Are there any surveys or statistics showing that there is an increase in the number of people consuming space oil? And where does the space oil come from? Are there any measures targeting the combating of space oil? Also, I'd like to ask about the contactless channel at Chongying Street. This contactless mode can enhance the experience of passengers, so I hope that this contactless channel can be completed as soon as possible. What is the relevant timetable? Will you consider adopting the relevant technology in other boundary control points? Secretary, on the question about space oil, let me give you some figures. In 2023, there were 8 cases. In 2024, as at August this year, there is a 5-fold increase in the number of cases. In 2023, we arrested 9 people. As at August, the number saw an 8-fold increase. As at August this year, we seized 756 grams of space oil, so we see a significant increase in the consumption of space oil. Young people are misled to consume space oil because they thought it's not harmful like e-cigarettes. However, etomidate is harmful to our health. Therefore, we have to complete the legislative exercise as soon as possible. Apart from gathering intelligence and carrying out enforcement actions, we have to step up publicity and education so that young people know that etomidate and space oil are harmful to our health. We hope that young people can refrain from consuming space oil. On the question about Sha Tao Kok, at this stage, it is not an official border checkpoint. Because of historical reasons, there are residents in Sha Tao Kok who have been granted permits to enter Chongying Street. We are going to have the contactless channel. We adopt the facial recognition technology so that upon registration, people can, through the contactless channel, enter and leave Chongying Street without using the paper form of the permit. We are doing some test runs now. It is expected that by the end of this year, we'll be able to roll out the contactless channels. This is a pilot point for us to test the use of facial recognition technology for identity verification. If it is successful, perhaps in the loop, we can use the same technology for passenger clearance on a fixed number of people. Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, Chairman. The tourism sector wants to thank the government for responding to our needs in its policy address. For example, the cancellation of arrival and departure card, also the visa restrictions have been relaxed for some ASEAN countries. Also, there are measures to be deployed in Chongying Street. I thank the Secretary for supporting the development of the tourism industry. On visa arrangement, I have a couple of questions. As we all know, the Immigration Department has been doing a lot. It has set up a fast-track arrangement for visitors from ASEAN countries. The service pledge is that the application will be processed within 2 weeks' time. However, is there room for improvement? Can the process be further expedited? The Hong Kong International Airport is a transportation hub. We have a lot of transit passengers. Many visitors from different countries have to get a visa in order to enter Hong Kong. Some 40 countries, they get visa exemption if they want to go to the mainland. However, for transit passengers, they still have to get the visa in order to travel to the mainland. Can there be further visa relaxation so that more people can make use of the Hong Kong International Airport? I want to ask about Lin Ma Han Road. Over the past weekend, on Saturday, the Robin's Nest Country Park, the 45th Country Park in Hong Kong, was officially opened. Around the end of this year, there will be a museum on the quarry site. There are many tourism resources in the country park. However, the restriction zone in Lin Ma Han is causing a problem. Members of the public or visitors encounter difficulties if they want to visit the site. Can the Lin Ma Han Road or Lin Ma Han restricted zone be open to the public? Secretary. On visa arrangement for visitors from the ASEAN countries, well, our service pledge is that applications will be processed within 2 weeks' time. Is there further room for improvement? We will keep an eye on the situation. Secondly, about entry visas for entering the Hong Kong International Airport. Well, there are security considerations. We will continue to keep in view the situation to see if we can enhance the visa arrangement. On the question about Lin Ma Han Road, there are roads that take you to Lin Ma Han. If you have been there, you would know that there is a bridge that takes you to the mainland. And currently, the bridge is cordoned off. We have just opened the Robin's Nest Country Park. There will be other tourism facilities, including the museum in the old quarry site. Is there room for us to relax the restrictions in relation to Limahan? We will continue to study that. Ms. Carmen Khan, on crime fighting and telling good stories of Hong Kong, I have a couple of questions. On fighting crimes and responding to emergencies, I support the legislative proposal for ensuring the computer system security of critical infrastructures. The reason why we need to enact legislation is because we want to ensure security of computer systems.
In the middle of the year, there was an incident concerning CrowdStrike. So that was about operational safety. Apart from that, there is also data safety. With the leakage of data, there will be economic loss, for instance. And this, I was told, is about data safety measures, which is the responsibility of the Innovation and Technology Bureau. Now, on this score, can you talk about data security and also about systems security? These are twins, you know. I would want to be able to stop any gaps and to fill any voids should they undermine security. And further, there is the cancellation of the declaration form for arrivals in Hong Kong. So this is no longer a paper-based declaration form. So from the visitor's point of view, the experience is good. It does away with the trouble. But on the other hand, with the boarding system, boarding onto the air flight, I think these two have to go hand in hand. At the point of boarding, there will have to be another layer of control, but it does say from the government that by December there will be over 100 airlines which will be participating in this system of passenger information sharing. So can you talk about this a little bit more so that there is alleviation of any concerns? And another question concerning the smart customs. I remember earlier in the year we have in the committee stage talked about this this system, and there were recommendations and suggestions for improvements. And we also know that for Guangdong and Hong Kong and another province, there had been opening up of this smart custom system. Can you talk about the progress of that a little bit more? That's right. First of all, for some of the critical infrastructure, we want to be able to manage them well and to protect them from attack. And there will be a specific office set up for this purpose, including officers from the police with investigation experience. And the data office will have colleagues who will be seconded, colleagues who will have the data protection experience. Now, for the protection of infrastructural facilities, it is to protect these facilities from being attacked, and the data would also be protected. But just on data protection itself, this is the work of the data office. Now, this is the government, and of course, the relevant departments and bureaus, of course, work together. Everybody takes one step forward and basically make sure that all the necessary work is taken up. And another question concerning the declaration form in coming into and going out of Hong Kong. Now, for historical reasons, in the past, we want to know who's coming in, where they come from, and therefore there was this declaration form. But nowadays, we feel that there is not really such need for such information. So we have done away with this declaration. And this declaration system that we're talking about, first of all, it is a prerequisite. It is a requirement for international aviation. And this is before they actually arrive in Hong Kong. We would know who's coming to Hong Kong, and where needs be, we will perhaps put in the relevant mechanisms where the arrival would be put on the plane and flown back to the place of origin where it is appropriate. And also concerning the service that you talked about and lowering of in the optimization of the work, we will continue to put in efforts. Now, the pre-sharing of information of passengers coming to Hong Kong, I hope there will be that will be expedited, because I think that is effective in forestalling these persons claiming to be refugees arriving in Hong Kong. Yes, indeed, the system will be by the first half of 2025. It will be the system will be completed, and we would want to definitely expedite that as well. Now, Edmund Wong, first of all, I want to commend the authorities in doing very effective and positive work in terms of immigration. And also for the ASEAN countries, 10 of these countries, there will be a one-stop service and also the customs clearing for them, so that the process would be expedited. And also for some of the invitees coming to Hong Kong for major conferences and events, there will be also service for them as well to make the experience more convenient. So I would like to know who would go on these the list of such persons, and if such persons come to Hong Kong but once a year, it doesn't seem to be very useful. Now, how can we also extend this treatment to perhaps other areas and places? I have a follow-up question concerning the number for completion from 7 months compressed to 4 months. I'd like to know whether these 4 months is a maximum that we can go. Can we compress the time further? I'm referring to these illegal labor coming to Hong Kong and applying for stay in Hong Kong and basically abusing the system by overstaying. Well, first of all, your question was about the convenience for some of the persons that are specially invited by Hong Kong SAR coming into the territory to facilitate their arrival. This is not limited to the ASEAN countries, but we start off with the 10 countries in the ASEAN area. We will further extend the list. These persons will be given visas. So these are people coming to Hong Kong. They are special persons, and these persons we understand that from a risk point of view, if these persons do not carry a lot of risk, do not introduce risk to Hong Kong, do we necessarily need to request a lot of information to them? For example, they are the top 10 richest persons in their own country. For this type of people, if they genuinely come to Hong Kong for contribution in trade, in economics, for technology, and these persons would not want to overstay in Hong Kong, then we can provide this one-stop service to them. We have this system available to them so that they can have a more convenient entry into Hong Kong. For this list of people, it would not be running into the tens of thousands. It would not be a couple of dozens, and perhaps, but I cannot say exactly how many. It will not be a few dozens, and it's definitely not in tens of thousands. I cannot disclose the number. Yes, as for your third question, indeed, the time has been compressed from 7 months to 4 months. It depends on resources, whether we can further compress the time, availability of judges, etc., for these illegal laborers coming to Hong Kong. And we have a system where we already take off certain persons which are of high risk. They're not able to come to Hong Kong. And also for certain countries, for example, in our court of first instance, if they had dismissed the case then or the appeal, we can already repatriate these persons to their country of origin. So that already is discouraging these persons, and it is reducing such cases of abuse. And the Security Bureau in the past 1 year had given us a very good report card, especially in Article 23 legislation. And in paragraph 4 of your document, it was mentioned that there will be a set of guidelines promulgated concerning the requirements to public officers for compliance of the National Security Ordinance in discharging their duties. And just now, Mr. Tang had talked about this point, but we know that the national security actually involves a number of areas. And what about this guideline? Would it include all these areas? Is it an internal document? It is a confidential document, or would it be made public so that members of the public would also be in the know? And another question concerning roadside CCTV installation. This is highly effective in combating or preventing crimes, but there are certain light traffic offenses, which can also be concerned. I have received suggestions from the members of the public for the double solid lines, for example, outside the Macau, Hong Kong-Macau terminal. There are violations, traffic violations. I do not know whether these traffic black spots would also be equipped with CCTVs so that you can alleviate the police in giving out tickets in these black spots. And also for repatriation, everybody's very concerned with the off-duty police officer being hacked by one such person. And Mr. Tang had talked about these potential abusers who overstay and who are waiting for repatriation. It was mentioned that these persons would be retained. But you know that habeas corpus can be applied for to the courts by such persons, and you just cannot retain them for indefinitely. Now, if these abusers with their temporary papers, if they are free to walk the streets of Hong Kong, that is a concern. So for the application for habeas corpus, have there been successful cases on their side? And if that is the situation, what is your way of response, please? Right. Concerning the guidelines, the first question, this is about national security. We want to remind our public officers how they can discharge their duties in compliance with the National Security Ordinance and to avoid certain actions. So in handling public in handling certain cases, of course, given that kind of nature, it is an internal document. And secondly, Mr. Lai understood correctly, for some of the areas, non-parking areas, double line areas, we will use certain means, technology means. For example, with AI, they will be able to judge whether this is illegal parking, or in the future, we will also be deploying our CCTV in this way. A third question that you have asked is the retention actually the quota had been increased from 660 last year to 900 so that those high-risk abusers can be detained. And of course, they can apply for habeas corpus. There had been successful cases and failed cases of application as well. But yes, indeed, the failed cases are in the majority. And if you have the numbers, please provide the numbers after the meeting. Right. Maggie Chan, please. Right, I have a question concerning education and promotion of national security. There had been a big myth and a misunderstanding saying that there will be a major conciliation, and Hong Kong has to remain open, and therefore there will be lenient treatment of violations against national security. And this is, of course, against the rule of law, and yes, in front of the law, everybody's equal, but at the same time, of course, it means that anybody who's violated the law will have to be punished appropriately. So the question is, do you have certain work groups, which basically respond to and combat that kind of guiding information that's circulating in society so people do not get misled by them in national security violations. And secondly, for education and promotion of national education, it is very much about local promotion and education. What about outside of Hong Kong? Hong Kong is a place of rule of law. We will abide by the law. The laws will be implemented, and in front of the law, everybody is equal. So are you going to promote those as well?
Secretary, on different occasions, the Secretary for Justice as well as myself tell people that for those who have broken the law, whether we should stop instigating prosecution against them after a certain time. Well, unless it is stipulated in the law, otherwise, at any time, as long as there is evidence, we will initiate prosecution against these people. Otherwise, we will make the illegal behaviors lawful. On different occasions, the Secretary for Justice and I have spoken about this. On the so-called misunderstandings about the national security law, as I mentioned, there was a rebuttal team. But it is not that we have to be against everything, but for any misconception or misunderstanding, we'll try our best to rectify them. This spirit of the rebuttal team is long lived in the civil service, so we have to tell members of the public if there are any misunderstandings. On how to tell good stories of Hong Kong, this is a major part of our work. Through our ETOs, we tell people about the actual situation of Hong Kong. Also, the chief executive as well as the financial secretary, they visit different places in the world, and when they go on these visits, they tell people about the actual situation of Hong Kong. Through the business sector, they reflect the actual circumstances in Hong Kong. Apart from overseas visits, we also invite different people to come to Hong Kong, including journalists, to come and experience themselves the freedom in Hong Kong. As long as you abide by the law, there are lots of things that you can do here. So these are things that we have been doing to promote Hong Kong. Mr. Benson, look. Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions. First, I'm quite worried about fraud cases in Hong Kong. According to the information, we had about 20,000 fraud cases in the first half of this year, representing an increase of 6.2%. The publicity effort of the government has been effective. However, deception still accounts for 43% of crimes in Hong Kong. Last year, in the Chief Executive's policy address, there were KPIs in relation to combating frauds. There was an anti-deception center set up between the administration and banks in Hong Kong. I saw that this center yielded results. However, according to this year's paper, there is not much mention about the relevant KPIs or measures to combat deceptions. I want to know what strategies or KPIs the government has to tackle fraud. My other question is about Entomidate. It is the third most popular dangerous drug in Hong Kong, and there have been 3 fatal cases so far. And the number of people consuming space oil has increased by 7-fold. I think the last time we listed a drug as a dangerous drug was CBD2. I believe this time around there is a strong consensus at the community level about listing Entomidate as a dangerous drug. I believe space oil is mostly smuggled into Hong Kong. I understand that the government has been combating space oil in the market. I want to know what the strategies are. Secretary, on combating deception, it is mentioned in the policy address that the suspicious alert will cover all types of transfer transactions. We have a lot of new thoughts and ideas about stepping up our publicity effort. And they are not all covered in the policy address because we come up with new ideas every day. In the Scam Meter Plus app, there is a function allowing people to make reports. We also give out cars as prizes for those who take part in our campaign. There are also drone shows spreading anti-scam messages. For example, in the future, when you receive your water bill, there might be messages reminding you to beware of scams. Also, when you go to restaurants in the future, you might be able to see from the cutlery or tableware messages about anti-deception. Over 100 goods vehicles will display anti-scam messages as well. So every day we try to come up with new ideas about combating frauds. So don't worry about that. About space oil, we understand that it is close to the heart of many people. So we are fast-tracking. We try to, by February next year, complete the legislative exercise. Space oil is a chemical substance. We noticed that there are people manufacturing space oil locally and incorporating them in e-cigarettes. We've also cracked down on syndicates trafficking space oil at boundary control points. Mr. Ma Fung Kwok, 2 questions. According to the paper, there will be more CCTVs installed at black spots. I believe this will be effective, so I support this policy. During Halloween, just now, the police said it deployed for the first time through technology, estimate the number of people for crowd management purpose. So Halloween has passed. How do the police assess the technology deployed? Were the measures successful? There will be fireworks display with lots of people going to see the show. There will also be people going to the Kai Tak Sports Park in the future. Is the hardware ready to cope with the crowds at tourism hotspots? My other question is about the ICAC. After the setting up of the Hong Kong International Academy, different work has been done. Mr. Ma, the work of ICAC is the second discussion item. Secretary, during Halloween at Lan Kwai Fong, we installed 50 sets of CCTV cameras to get real-life images. We also had a software system to estimate real-time the number of people in the area, as well as the flow of people. We also, through the system, identified any so-called choke points to see if there was any congestions. We made use of the data as well as the data analytics, decided where there should be crowd going towards one direction only, and whether we should ask people to make use of certain entrances and exits of the MTR stations. And the system was very helpful for our operation, and it also helped ensure public safety. The relevant infrastructures will be installed in the Kai Tak Sports Park. It is a new facility in Hong Kong. People aren't very familiar with the facility yet, so through CCTV cameras as well as the software systems mentioned, we will get a lot of help. Apart from monitoring crowd, the CCTV networks will be expanded to roads so that we can monitor the traffic condition. In individual events and activities, we will make use of different types of technologies. We will, for example, install CCTV cameras on different occasions. I want to ask about Chung Ying Street in Sha Tau Kok. Facial recognition technology will be adopted, or it's being adopted. What is the effectiveness? Will you make use of this type of technology in other places? Well, the crowd control systems or crowd management systems is mainly for doing a head count of the number of people around. As for the facial recognition technology, we make use of this technology so that passengers don't have to use their paper form permits when they enter and leave Chung Ying Street. We hope to be able to adopt the facial recognition technology in other border control points. We cannot make use of this technology on all passengers because it will not be very efficient. We are studying whether it's possible for us to adopt this technology in the loop, for example. Mr. Bill Tang. I have a couple of questions. The first question is about the government's anti-deception effort. Scam meter is a common tool nowadays. People who have suspicion about certain websites, they can report them through the scam meter platform. I have a personal experience myself. My daughter's WhatsApp got hacked by some criminals who tried to lure my daughter to ask her father to give or pay ransom to the hackers. I could not report the case on Scam Meter. Because I did not suffer any losses. I wasn't able to report the case, but at the same time you wanted me to report the case. However, because there was no monetary loss, so I wasn't able to actually report the case to the police. So is there a platform for people to provide information or intelligence? They may not have suffered any losses, but they could still provide the information for the police. some CID officers were very helpful. They came and made a record of statement with me in the middle of the night. However, I wish it could be done in a more convenient manner. Secondly, I noticed that the government as well as a lot of large-scale organizations in Hong Kong try to have mega or international events to be hosted in Hong Kong, and this involves anti-terrorism effort of the police. I know that in 2025 an International Olympics event will be held in Hong Kong. The National Games will also be held in Hong Kong. In terms of gathering intelligence as well as anti-terrorism effort, what is the progress so far? Another question is about the KK group. Some Chinese people, they lure other Chinese to go to places outside of Hong Kong to work. So this is about human trafficking. Is the human trafficking situation in Hong Kong serious? Can you tell us more about this?
For the first question, where there are such cases of fraud and cheating, yes, you can use the scam meter, but sometimes the information you want to upload or provide is complicated, and in that instance, you can call 1822 our hotline, and you can call the hotline, and also there would be perhaps an email address in the scam message, and there would be other specifics in the scam message. So I think this would be very useful for us as our follow-up. So do call 1822, the hotline, so that our colleagues can take down these relevant information from you. Another question you asked is about anti-terrorism. Our grading now is still medium, but at the same time, we have to be wary. And therefore, in this year's policy address, we have talked about the 3 levels of mechanism. In the past, we had a very good mechanism. And at the CE's office, there is a work committee responsible for that. But at the same time, now we have an anti-terrorism team, which is cross-departmental, which is working in this area. But to augment that, there will be a chief executive steering group on counter-terrorism, which includes secretaries from the various or 7 departments. It is a working group chaired by the chief executive, and the relevant departments will participate in these anti-terrorism 3-tier preventive mechanism. And these would include a number of areas in information provision, public education, etc. So this is all about anti-terrorism. This 3-tier preventive mechanism, we hope, would be able to help us in terms of anti-terrorism work. Now, for KK situation, your third question, actually a couple of years ago, there had been over 40 cases, and then there weren't that many in the past year, but we noticed that for this year, there had been 19 cases happening. And for these 19 persons involved in the cases, there were about 7 of them. I'll give you the specific numbers after the meeting, but 7 are safe and sound in Hong Kong, and we have been in contact with the others for various reasons. They're not in Hong Kong just yet, but they are safe. Now, how come they were misguided and they were brought overseas? It is because there were advertisements which were highly suspicious, claiming that there were these high-paying jobs overseas, and the normal person would not be lured by them. But at the same time, we're doing a lot of publicity for these overseas positions. which are high-paying but requires almost no experience. Do be wary if you see such recruitment advertisements. And we are also working with the relevant countries and also the consulates to combat these. Right, Paul Zhang. According to my understanding, the police have been doing a lot of work also on these scams, including overseas calls to Hong Kong. There would be reminders from the government to alert the citizens of possible scams. So I just want to talk about remedies. Mr. Tan Kai-pyo, our colleague, was talking about his case with no loss sustained. But on the other hand, for other cases, perhaps there can be speedy communication with the banks concerned to stop any payments. Now, but what about the case for cases where there had been a sending out of payments? Can there be any remedies, compensations, for example, for the victims? Can there be certain recourse for them? Are there improvement measures from the enforcement departments, for example, so that the relevant procedures do not need to be as cumbersome, and also perhaps even if there should be lawsuits, there can be recourse and compensation. Now, another question, whether it is a beeper or the mobile phone, there are certain installations which seem to be very strange so these are technologies that are embedded in certain devices, and perhaps they come from certain manufacturers. So should there be certain warnings for the citizens to avoid using such devices? Are there prevention mechanisms from the government, please? First of all, on the swindling cases, together with the 10 major banks, we have an information center, and they are sending their people to the center, working together with our colleagues. And where there are such swindling cases, they work on them together. So there is this particular mechanism. As for recourse, where money had been expatriated, what to do? Now, for a bank account which has already been deposited with a lot of money, who does this do these funds belong to? Because there can be a number of parties which have been swindled there. So this is a highly complicated situation. How to apportion among parties A, B, C, etc. So you have to understand this is highly complicated. You would understand. So in terms of compensation, that's the answer. And thirdly, your third question, whether certain devices present higher risks. Now, as I have mentioned, there are 7 interdepartmental working groups under the Chief Executive Steering Group on Counter-Terrorism, one of which is on IT. And there is another important export products review working group. And that's exactly responsible for looking into new technology which is being used or abused to effect criminal or swindling cases, so that we can avoid using such artifacts or products. And this will be deploying AI and big data to identify these high risks products so as to avoid sustaining loss. Lastly, myself, I have 2 questions. First of all, on the CCTV. With installation of the CCTVs for 4 months, there had been 17 crimes which had been successfully handled, and these are robberies and even murders. And just now, there had been a number of members asking whether we can speed up with the installation of more CCTVs. And the answer was every year there would be another 2,000 units installed, but at the same time, there are public areas and public utilities such as the MTR with their CCTVs, which can also be utilized. Unless we have a lot of resources, otherwise, with all the CCTVs being installed by the police or the security bureau, this is hefty indeed. I noticed that for the Innovation and Technology Bureau, the head of the bureau can also promote the sharing of data among the relevant government departments. And you can understand that for the Food and Health and also Housing Department and also Leisure and Culture, and within their premises and venues, there are a lot of CCTVs installed as well. Perhaps there can be a pooling of the data or the images from their videos. And if so, perhaps we would have covered the entire territory of Hong Kong, and we would also have saved a lot of funds. So perhaps you can discuss this within the among the departments for these CCTVs. Maybe you can link them together, or where there are crimes, the enforcement authorities or the police can retrieve the images from these CCTVs for investigation purposes. So that would alleviate some pressure in installing many CCTVs. And then there was another point brought up by members concerning self-manufactured or produced guns and firearms. Now, this is a big challenge. Now, even on the internet, at home, there can be downloading of images and then using 3D printing. Such weapons can be produced. And very often, these take place in private homes or venues. And it is difficult for the police to detect them unless there is tip-off or information. So in the future, for the amendment legislation on firearms and weapons, for the process of assembling these firearms and also 3D printing of firearms, what would be the added layer of effectiveness, please? Well, definitely, first of all, Chair, the different departments would be working together. The Housing Department, for instance, there's CCTV, then format would be different. Not all of them would have video recording even, and definitely their formats would well be different. So there are discrepancies among the departments where it is legal and reasonable. Perhaps the information will be pulled and used and shared. That's the trend where it is possible. And secondly, whether the guns or the ammunition are produced in Hong Kong, there will be markings of such for import of such firearms and ammunition. As for self-produced firearms and ammunition, these are illegal, whether they are 3D printed or self-assembled. Just now, the chair had mentioned that there is such information on the internet and people in their own premises assemble such firearms. This also is illegal. And also we would be scanning the internet as well to see whether there are such illegal acts of assembling firearms. Right. So we have completed the Q&A. Let us now go to the fourth agenda item of this meeting, which is the briefing by the Commissioner ICAC on the Chief Executive 2024 Policy Address. I'll be asking the Commissioner to come into the room, would you please press the button if you want to ask a question? And then we will invite questions later on after the report had been given by the Commissioner. Now, this meeting goes on to 4:30. I see 6 members having pressed the question button. Is that all? I will read out. They are Lai Tung Kwok, Chairman Kong, Johnny Ng, Yeo Park Leung, Carmen Kan, and Ma Fong Kwok. I will draw the line here. Now, discussing together with us is Mr. Wu Yingming, Danny, SBS SD SM Commissioner ICAC, Ricky Yao, Head of Operations ICAC, Brian Chong, Director of Corruption Prevention, and also Diamond Mack, Director of Community Relations ICAC, and Kenneth Wong, Director of International Cooperation ICAC.
Chairman, members, let me brief you on the work of the ICAC this year and the key areas of our work for the coming year. The corruption situation in Hong Kong continues to be well under control. In the first 9 months of this year, the number of corruption complaints received by the ICAC dropped by 3% compared with the same period last year. Corruption complaints involving government bureaus or departments dropped slightly by 1%, while those involving the private sector fell by 6%. The details are set out in the papers. There are 4 major priorities for the ICAC. First, maintaining a clean society. For this area, I will focus on our work on building maintenance and management. Following the successful prosecution of a 23-member corruption syndicate in the industry in last year's enforcement Operation FireNet, the ICAC and the Competition Commission mounted 2 joint operations this year to crack down on the newly rising corruption syndicate suspected of manipulating the tendering process and exaggerating tender prices through bribery and bid rigging. To further enhance cooperation, the ICAC will sign a Memorandum of Understanding with the Competition Commission in December. To enhance the effectiveness of anti-corruption efforts, the ICAC is organizing a territory-wide building management summit to bring together district council members, representatives of relevant government departments, public bodies and building management organizations, professionals and flat owners for in-depth exchanges on integrity and quality building management to create synergy in shaping a safe and sound living environment. On the labor importation and talent admission schemes, during the year, ICAC officers conducted a number of enforcement actions at major infrastructure sites and arrested a number of subcontractors foremen suspected of soliciting bribes from imported workers in order to maintain their employment. The fact that most of these cases were reported by imported workers who faced wage exploitation proves that the ICAC publicity and education strategy has been effective in gaining their trust. On corporate and banking industry integrity management, to encourage the industry to implement integrity policies, the ICAC partnered with the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong and the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce to promote the Business Sector Integrity Charter. Separately, with the full support of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and the Hong Kong Association of Banks, the ICAC launched the Banking Industry Integrity Charter this year. The ICAC will continue with this strategy to enhance the probity culture in the industry. Another focus of our work is advancing international collaboration against corruption. The ICAC has been expanding its international network to promote Hong Kong's anti-corruption experience and robust rule of law to the international community. In various global anti-corruption surveys, Hong Kong has continued to hold top rankings. The ICAC, together with the International Association of Anti-Corruption Authorities, or the IAACA, organized the 8th ICAC Symposium in May, which brought a record number of over 500 representatives from about 180 anti-corruption and law enforcement agencies of nearly 60 jurisdictions to Hong Kong to witness the signing of MOU by the ICAC and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, as well as the anti-corruption agencies of Six Belt and Road and other countries. In the coming year, the ICAC will continue to play its role as a superconnector to bolster national and international anti-corruption endeavors. The Hong Kong International Academy Against Corruption was established in February this year. It's been actively conducting strategic professional training programs for graft fighters worldwide. Also, we will make use of the anti-graft tripartite partnership with IAACA and the Academy. We will co-organize programs and we will compile an assessment guide on prison management with the IAACA. We've been working hard to promote Belt and Road integrity building. We have organized more than 60 anti-corruption courses, helping to train more than 2,600 anti-corruption officers from 70 countries. We will continue to roll out tailor-made courses and programs. We will send officers to the mainland to learn about the country's anti-corruption endeavors and other developments. In terms of building a clean GBA, under the coordination of the National Commission of Supervision, the anti-corruption agencies in the mainland, Hong Kong and Macau are working together to compile a guide on doing business with integrity for the Greater Bay Area. On engaging young people, promoting youth participation in fighting corruption is the way forward for the continuation of our work. The ICAC will continue to organize engagement programs for students at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels. We will train up students with potential and passion to enable them to have a proper understanding of the country's anti-corruption efforts and broaden their horizons. On reinforcing partnership with district communities, district councils, district fight crime committees, area committees, community care teams, and community living rooms are important partners of the ICAC. The ICAC has organized briefings for the new term district council members in all 18 districts to brief them on their role in corruption prevention. We've also organized visits for district council members to the ICAC headquarters. We had in-depth exchanges with district council members. On innovative publicity strategy, the ICAC has undergone a major reform in publicity and education. Starting from July this year, we have implemented the reform. We introduced light-hearted and captivating content filmed with creative techniques in our latest video clips, which attracted the attention of the public. Among them, a 3-episode video series depicted university students under internship at the ICAC. And one of the episodes recorded about 500,000 views on Facebook. The one about our open day also recorded 2 million viewerships, which broke the record for the ICAC. To further expand the coverage of anti-corruption education, the ICAC will launch a brand new project next week. On the first floor of the ICAC building, there will be a cafe named 1974, which will be open to the general public. Combining education, publicity, and the ICAC coffee concept, the 1974 project is expected to attract local residents and tourists from the mainland and overseas. Yesterday, we released the teaser video on the 1974 cafe. You might not have watched it yet, so I asked the chairman for his permission to play this video at this meeting. (1974) Hong Kong. If there was one more cafe, would you go with me? Yes. When? And where? November the 15th, 1974 cafe. This is a short promotional video. This is a new attempt for us after the reform in July this year. I'm quite happy with the video, and we got over 100,000 viewership so far for this video. As for our next step, well, we have an exhibition hall in the ICAC building. It's been there for a while, and it's now undergoing a major renovation. After the renovation, we will introduce new technologies in the hall, and it is expected that the exhibition hall will be open to the public again by the first quarter next year. So, members of the public can come to taste our coffee as well as visit the exhibition hall in the ICAC building. Chairman, the work and achievements of the ICAC over the past 50 years have been the driving force behind our continuous innovation and progress. We will continue to do our best to bring our organization and work to new heights. We have to hand this room to another panel by 4:30 p.m., so 3 minutes for each member. Please do not overrun. Mr. Lai Tong-kwok, Chairman, the Commissioner said in his opening remarks that the ICAC has been working on corruption cases in building management and maintenance. We are seeing more and more repair and maintenance works in old buildings in Hong Kong. And this gives criminals or lawbreakers a very good opportunity to break the law. The ICAC has been working with the Competition Commission to crack down on a number of syndicates. However, it takes time for these cases to go through court proceedings. We haven't been able to see the effectiveness of the ICAC's enforcement work, therefore. This is under the purview of the Home Affairs Department. The Chapter 334 of the Hong Kong law has been amended recently, and the ICAC mentions in its paper that it is currently working with the Home Affairs Department to revise the operation guide or administrative guide. Apart from anti-corruption education on law enforcement front, what strategies do you have to effectively deter lawbreakers or criminals from working with members of incorporated owners to scam money out of flat owners? Thank you. Commissioner, well, building management and maintenance is a major issue. We have allocated lots of resources in this over the past few years. We have set up a task force within the ICAC to investigate cases involving building management and maintenance. We also noticed that with just the ICAC, we cannot comprehensively tackle the problem. This is because this involves many government departments and bureaus. So we have worked with different government departments and bureaus over the years, and we have been actively exploring what we can do. For example, we have given advice when the ordinance was amended. We are also going to mount a series of operations. I'm afraid I cannot disclose too many details here, but I guess I can briefly tell you about our work directions. Perhaps, Commissioner, you can only share with us the details in the next meeting. Dr. Chow Man Kong. Thank you, Chairman. We learned that the ICAC has done a lot of work in terms of combating corruption. The 1974 cafe will be opened soon. And in terms of complaints, we got complaints mostly from the construction sector, the finance and insurance sector, as well as from building management. I hope you can invite the relevant stakeholders to have a cup of coffee at the ICAC building. There are youth uniformed groups under the 6 major disciplined services. Can the ICAC do the same in terms of youth education?
And I'm looking at your manpower. There is 1,552 positions, and then there are some supernumerary positions as well. So what about your manpower situation? Well, for youth work within the ICAC, we do have some youth groups. We call them I-Elite. And we continuously provide training to these young people. And these young people will participate in some of the activities that we organize. For example, in May of this year, in the 8th ICAC Annual Symposium, we have invited a lot of these elite youths to help out in the symposium and to meet up with some of the anti-graft officers from around the world. So we have our own characteristics in terms of providing this kind of youth training and leadership programs. A second question was about manpower. We have about 10% vacancy, but these are natural attrition and retirement. And before I left the office today, I saw that there were a lot of young people queuing up to do interviews for recruitment. So our recruitment situation is good. I understand that the government is short in terms of resources, and of course we want to maximize the resource that we have on hand. Johnny Ng, first of all, very much commend the work of the ICAC over the past 50 years, building a very clean environment for Hong Kong and for the world over. They also commend the work of the ICAC in Hong Kong, and they're coming here to learn from you. A couple of areas. First of all, on technology. It is very advanced these days, and many of the corruption cases are very complex, and they spread over different geographical areas. So for prevention of bribery, apart from the guidelines that you have introduced and also working with some of the other commissions, for example, using technology in combating and preventing bribes and corruption? Are there other ways of using technology in doing so? And secondly, how many cases in the past year had been investigated and actually successfully handled partnering overseas commissions? And are there ways to strengthen this kind of cooperation, please? Well, Chair, I will be talking about 2 areas. First of all, prevention of corruption, and secondly, in investigation, to illustrate what we do in terms of technology. Now, first of all, digital government. In bribery prevention in the construction industry, as an example, to lower their corruption risk, we have been promoting to the industry to use technology to prevent bribery. For example, in the records of site investigation and inspection, to right away upload such information, and also to digitalize security, to put all the data in a centralized database so as to avoid human errors and also human tinkering with the uploaded information. And together with the Development Bureau, we are working together in coming up with a surveillance system which is based on digital technology. Secondly, in the area of investigation of cases, during investigation, we very much utilize technology because cases are getting more complex. We use a lot of digital technology, and also in collecting evidence, information, and analysis of the evidence, we use technology, but we are not able to provide you with details of what we do exactly there because of the confidentiality of the cases. But definitely, we are very cognizant of being in the forefront of technology in investigation. Well, Yu Parker Leung. Well, we thank the Commissioner for the report. There has been a lot of work done in prevention and investigation of corruption cases, and there had been major achievements. And further, we are building up a clean brand for Hong Kong internationally. And the work of the ICAC is renowned around the world. And in the past, there had been study groups coming from the mainland and from other areas. And when they come to Hong Kong to study Hong Kong, they specifically ask to visit ICAC. So in the document, it is mentioned that there will be a renovation of the exhibition hall using more technology so that the visitors will have immersive experience in getting to know about anti-corruption work. And I'm thinking perhaps this can become a tourist hotspot even. Had the ICAC considered offering the exhibition hall to tourists, working together with tourist agents, for example, so that they can come take pictures, visit the exhibition hall, and perhaps to taste your coffee as well. Well, Chair, for this cafe concept that we had developed, first of all, it is to make it open to the public. They can come in and out of the cafe freely during office hours, and we also welcome tourists as well. You mentioned just now about these tour groups. We have to think about the space of the exhibition hall as well. If there are overly big groups, we will have to ask for pre-booking, and we can also arrange for our colleagues to do some docent explanations on the spot. And further, for ICAC, for this brand name of ours, it is built because of the joint efforts with the people of Hong Kong, and we want to share this. We do not want to be so mysterious to the public. What we can show to the public, we will show. And further, there are a lot of education groups and also organizations which form visiting groups, and we will provide docented tours to them to talk about the ICAC work. In the past, we did not host too many groups or too many people. We want to do more in this area. As for making a tourist spot to help with tourism industry in Hong Kong, if we can do so, we certainly would want to. Carmen Can. First of all, declaration. I am on the advisory committee of the ICAC. Now, in Hong Kong, apart from the rule of law, which is definitely part of the brand name of Hong Kong, the work of the ICAC is definitely another major factor. And I'm very happy to see that there is a moving with the times for the ICAC in the relevant areas, for example, in talents, in property management, in the construction industries. There is due focus on these relevant areas. But I think in the policy address, there are some specific areas mentioned. Now, the ICAC was not mentioned much, but on the other hand, it did say that there will be training sessions for international anti-corruption bodies in 2025. Why is it part of the work of the ICAC in building a clean Belt and Road area? And then in the document, it talks about a set of guidelines on compliance for the GBA area. And I think this is a good policy, and it is indeed moving with the times. I would like the Commissioner to talk about these areas a bit more. Commissioner? Well, actually, corruption is a cross-border problem, and it's a worldwide problem. Hong Kong does not stand alone in claiming that we are clean with no regard to overseas experience. In order to be able to combat corruption effectively, especially cross-border corruption, we will have to have a consensus around the world. We will have to work together. So for corruption funds and the proceeds from criminal acts, the flow of the funds is not limited to one territory alone. So if we do not raise the capability of anti-corruption around the world, in the end, corruption as a problem cannot be resolved completely, or its seriousness sufficiently lowered. Over the past decades of our work and over different stages of challenges, we have come to what we are now, and only then. And we are prepared to share our experience with other areas, and the country, the nation, does want the ICAC to help out other countries. And also, this is clearly a mission of the ICAC. We have already set up the academy, and therefore, with this, our platform is even bigger, and we will be able to better carry out this responsibility of ours. Ma Fung Kwok, this is very encouraging, having read the report from the ICAC. Indeed, there is a very good brand name built up from the work of the ICAC. Now, I would want to know about the international ICAC or academy. Are there such academies around the world? If there are others, are they comparable in what ways to the Hong Kong Academy compared to these other academies for anti-corruption? How well are we doing? And how do we promote the academy so that we can be sufficiently renowned? Now, this is a new project for ours, and of course, we want there to be sufficient recognition and renown for this academy of ours. So, internationally, in anti-corruption, prevention of briberies, how well are we doing? Well, in answer to that question, first of all, around the world, there are other anti-corruption institutes or academies, but their courses, their intended audience may be different, so it's difficult to compare. But for ourselves, for the academy that we have set up, it is very pragmatic in approach. We're not just teaching theory, we are teaching investigation skills, even techniques even. So around the world, this is rare. And also, for the coverage of the academy, it is wider than that of others. Just now, the question was also about the academy. Well, first of all, the academy was set up in February of this year, and through different levels of promotion and through actual work, we were able to prove the capability of our academy. And I would say that we are quite renowned within the anti-corruption industry around the world. And why do I say that? From a number of angles. First of all, the courses that we offer, how popular they are, and the speed of application is significant. And they are fully subscribed very quickly, including students from other countries. And also, we have colleagues going to overseas to teach. And there is just well, some of my colleagues say that they've been to the 5 continents in the world, except for the Arctic. Now, Jofi Chan, you press the button after I have drawn the line, so we have to end here. And we come to AOB, the 5th item in our agenda. There are no AOBs for this meeting. End of meeting. Thank you, everyone.